Hello everybody and welcome back. I'm Ian Wolf and this is Starbound version 1.0. So I've made some changes to the Railevator. I've added a quick switch mechanism as well as a floor display. So if I click on the bottom floor, it's currently on the top one. You'll see that it shows the bottom floor and it keeps track of where the elevator is as it comes down. Now let's say I go up to the second floor. The way I numbered this is the way I see most elevators, where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it does this weird zigzag. But let's go up to floor 2. Now with the old version, if I wanted to go back down to floor 1, it would continue going all the way to the top before returning down, because of it follows the same direction it was going before it stopped. But now I can flip it back and head right back down. Now let's say I go up to floor 4. I can go back down to floor 3 without going all the way to the top again. Or I could turn back around and go to floor 4 without going all the way to the bottom again. Now I'm going to show off. This is the wiring. Pretty messy. That's why I have another example down here where I'm going to rig it up with y'all. This is the initial setup right here that we did in the previous wiring tutorial. These represent our button presses for each floor, and these affect the stops on each floor as well as the doors. Everything else in here is added to create these other two systems. So let's go back down to floor 1 and show it off. Alright. So I already wired up this part. This is the same, like if you press the top one, it's the same system as before. This represents any top button. This represents any second to top, middle, so on and so forth. So these are just representations of how it would work. And up here, so the way this section works is each one of these OR gates is the sensors for that level. And these buttons will represent if the sensors are being passed. For example, if this goes up, it'll eventually reach the second floor and they'll trigger the sensors there. So that's what these buttons will represent. Now, the way this works is we need to determine which floor that they're currently on first. So we're going to hook up these sensors to NOT gates, and that'll show us which one they're currently on. So as you can see, or which floor they're currently headed to even, not even the one they're currently on, because if we press the third floor, it means they need to go up to the third floor. So it checks to see which one they're headed to. Now, we're going to wire these up similar to this, but it's going to end up being actually the exact opposite. So before, we would wire each OR gate up to the off switch across from it, and then turn all the other ones on, but we're going to do the opposite this time. We're going to wire it up to the on switch across from it, and turn all the other ones off. So it's just little simple wiring. Let's see, turn the other ones off. Turn the one across on, turn the one across on. Let's just do all the ons first, and then we'll do all the offs. Oops, that messed up there. Gotta redo that. Off, off, on, off. So you gotta be really careful when you're wiring. Off, 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 and then off, 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 and off. Okay, so now whenever we push this button, it means that it's currently on the first floor. Now it passes through, or the top floor. Now it passes through the next one, passes through the next one, and it keeps passing through each floor. And that's what this will represent. Now, ignore these OR gates for now. These are what I hook up to the lights, and they're not required for the switch system. So if you don't want to have the floor lights, then you can just ignore these OR gates. So we'll do those last. For now, we're going to focus on the switch system because that's the big deal, not having to wait for it to go all the way to the top or bottom before returning. So the way it works is each two of these represents the two surrounding a floor. So This one down here represents the second floor, and as you can see there's one above it and one below it. So this one represents the one above the second floor and the one below the second floor. The top and bottom floors don't have one because they don't need to. The top floor will always be heading down and the bottom floor will always be heading up. So the way we're going to wire this is, since this one represents the fourth floor, we need to hire the persistent switch for the fourth floor to the top of both of these. This one represents the third floor, so we wire the third floor to the top of both of these. And then the second floor to the top of both of these. If you have more and more floors, just remember you need 2 of these for each floor in the middle you have. The floors on the end don't need them at all. Okay. So now the second part of these AND gates is going to be which direction are we headed. So the first one checks which floor are we currently on, and the second one will check which floor are we going to. So for the fourth floor on the top one, it should be on if we're heading to the floor above it, to any of the floors above it, but since it's the fourth floor there's only one floor above it. So if we're heading to the top floor, we want this to be on. And the one below it, if we're heading to any of the floors below it, then this should be on. So if we're heading to the third floor, or the second floor, or the first floor, if any of these are the floor we're heading to, and if we're currently on the fourth floor, then this one will be on. And then for the third floor, we check the 2 floors above it to see if they're on. And then for the one below it, we check the 2 floors below it to see if they're on. And then for the second floor, we check all of the ones above it, all 3 of them, to see if any of them are the destination. And then for the one below it, we check to see if the first floor is the destination. So we have all of that hooked up. Now these OR gates on the end here are relays for the switches in the middle of each floor. So this is between floors 1 and 2, this is between 2 and 3, 3 and 4, and 4 and 5. And if you had more floors, it would be 5 and 6, 6 and 7, 7 and 8. Just remember the wire's going to get really crazy if you have more floors. Like wiring is just going to be the mess. It's going to be really hard to see what you're doing. But anyway, that's the basic setup for that. So now we want this one to be on if they're going up on this floor or if they're on the top floor. Because remember, if they're on the top floor, then that means they can only go down, so they need this one to be on in order to pass through it. Now if they're going down from the fourth floor, we need this one to be on. Or if they're going up from the third floor, we need this one to be on. This one needs to be on if they're going down from the third floor or up from the second floor. And this one if they're going down from the second floor or if they're on the first floor. Oh wait, that's not the one. This one is the first floor. I almost messed up there. And then we would take each one of these and hook them back up. And you can also have more stops in the middle. Like if you wanted to put 2, like one closer to this one and one closer to that one so that it would trigger faster, you can. But be wary because I put it as close as I could before, because you need to have an area around it so that it doesn't break off. Like you need to carve out the walls around it. And I put it as close as I could, carving out the walls just below the door. And it would sometimes not trigger fast enough, but it didn't mess up because it would try and go back up. And it wasn't supposed to because that wasn't where its destination was, so it would try and go back down again. And then it would have been triggered, so it would be able to pass. You just need to I would recommend leaving 3 blocks below the door and then carving out the wall. Like the way it's set up is I carve out 6 of the wall. And then I put it on just below the middle, and that keeps it from breaking off whenever it needs to go to a different wall. And I didn't explain this setup, but this is just a rail switch and a bumper, and say this is the bottom one, so I would hook it up to this switch. I guess I could go ahead and leave that hooked up because I can disable it, and I'll show you how it would work. Okay, I think the rest of this is already hooked up. So let's say it's currently on the second floor. So it's on the second floor, and it needs to go down. Wait. So this one is on. Is it not hooked up? Oh, it's because it's hooked up to something else. That's why it wasn't changing. Okay, I'm going to send this one off. That way we can actually see it work. That was really confusing me. Okay, so let's say you're on the top floor. So you're on the top floor, and the elevator's currently at the top floor, so this one's no longer on. Let's say you're at the second floor. So you're currently at the second floor, and you want to go up. What this would do was it would keep this like this, because it's not the floor that you're trying to go to, and you're on this floor. That way, if you were already going this way, it would bounce you back up. Now let's say you want to go to the bottom floor instead. It unlocks this one, so now you're allowed to go to the bottom floor, and the one above it is no longer on, so it would bounce you back down. So that's how that would work. Let me go ahead and calm my elevator back down. Okay. So basically, it just checks what floor you're currently on, then determines if you need to go up or down based on that floor. And it knows that the ones on the end always need to go in a certain direction. Now, for hooking up the light system, the way I have it set up is that if it's a floor you're going to, it'll light up. So each one of these hooks up to the one above it. Let's see if I can grab these wires. It's really clustered. And then each one of these goes to the one across it. So as you can see, its destination... Oh wait, I haven't hooked these up yet. Let's hook these up to these sample lights. So as you can see, this one represents the destination, so it's currently trying to get to this floor, but it's currently on this one. So if this was actually hooked up, the rail would start going down, it would end up on this floor. And then if you were to click the top floor, it would light that up, showing that's where it needed to go. And then it would slowly travel up, just based on where it currently is and where it needs to go is what lights are on. So that system's really simple, and I just threw it in there because it was a nice visual representation. So, I'm not sure how good of a job I did explaining all this. It's really not that complicated, it just takes a lot of wiring. And if you can get the basic understanding down, you should be able to copy my system, and if you have more floors, you should be able to extend upon it. So for example, if you needed another floor, there would basically be another set of these, and another set of these, for the sensors, and this one would be for the buttons, and you'd have 2 more AND gates, and you'd have 2 more, or you'd have 1 more switch, or 2 more, depends on how much you want, between the top and the next floor. So that's the best that I can explain it. I hope it helps someone. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.